All right, let's talk about the last step that we typically think about when we think about sales, and that is closing. How to close the sale. There's a famous way of thinking about it, ABC, always be closing. This is where people they get nervous about doing sales because up to the point when you are actually trying to close the sale, you can still just claim to be a friendly information giver, right? You're talking about this wonderful product, and if you don't try to close the sale, you can still just say, and it was nice talking to you today, and away you go. You don't risk being pushy, you don't risk being overbearing. You can leave and they can talk about the nice young person who just came and told them all about this wonderful new product, and hey, maybe sometime we'll get one. Well, that's not what we're doing in sales, but it's very, very tempting to simply not close. Because up until that point, we're still just being friendly and nice and informative, and nobody's mad, generally, unless you call during dinner. So, first thing we need to do when we're talking about actually performing a closing, we need to look for buying signals. Okay, anything a prospect says or does to indicate he or she is ready to buy. Asking questions. Someone is asking questions, are either very polite or they're kind of interested. We like questions. Even if they're negative questions, we like objections that have some meat to them. The only thing we don't like is people saying, no, get off my porch, or no, let me out of here. Any kind of anything other than that is actually a fairly good sign. Asking another person's opinion, turning to their spouse or their significant other, their friend that they came with, and saying, what do you think about this? It's a good sign. Relaxing and becoming friendly. Generally, that's a good sign. Pulling out a purchase order form. Yeah, I like that one. That one's pretty easy. Carefully examining the merchandise. If you're just glancing at it, oh yeah, it's a car, nice. That's different than kicking the tires and sitting in it and going for a test drive and all of those good and wonderful things. Now, what makes a good closer? Because a good closer is a good salesperson. All right, because if you're not closing, if you're not very good at closing, then you're not selling anything, so you're not even really a salesperson. What makes a good closer? Somebody who asks for the order and then remains quiet. We'll explain why that is so hard. Gets the order and moves on. Okay, done. Common things are people who never actually close or people who continue selling after the close. Both are problematic and generally kill sales. Now, asks for the order and then remains silent. Quiet. We get in a trap, especially as younger or inexperienced salespeople, that we want to continue talking past where we should. Because there's some safety in talking. We can sit here and just chat about this product all day long. As soon as there is silence, then we are asking somebody for money, we're asking them for the actual sale, and things get pressurized. Okay? So, let's talk about, I have a friend of mine. Also was a student for a while, now he's selling real estate. At one point he sold used cars. And he's a good guy, not a big pressure seller. But he said he had this one employee right after they've been doing training, which they do all the time with sales, about closing, about asking for the order and being quiet. And he had this one guy that just wanted to seem like he wanted to talk all day long about the stuff. Wasn't all that excited about the cars either, apparently. But just wanted to talk, and it's kind of a surly older gentleman. And eventually, my friend Dave took the two different options, had two different cars, and had them both, written up on paper in front of him, and pushed them across the table toward the guy and said, would you prefer this one or that one? He said, then he shut up and sat there, and the two stared at each other. And unbeknownst to my friend, his boss was sitting behind him and clicked a stopwatch, because he had been listening to this conversation, clicked a stopwatch as soon as he said, and which of these two would you like? And they both waited, sitting there, staring at each other, because in that situation, the person who talks next loses. Okay, they've already talked about the product. They already know what they're talking about. They knew all they wanted to know about both cars. They knew the financing options. All the things that had needed to be said had been said. They were done talking. We either needed to make a decision or go home. They sat there and stared at each other. Eventually, after a long time, The man said, I'll take this one. And my friend said, okay, good. Grabbed the forms, went and started working on things. His manager later said, do you realize how long you two were sitting there? I said, no, why? I said, how long was it? Said, it was 5 minutes. I timed you. Usually it doesn't take that long. But there is a point in any sales presentation where it is not being pushy, it is saying, we are kind of done here. Unless we sit there and rehash continually, which is what an inexperienced person does, we need to make a decision. Either you're going to buy this, as we've been talking about for a long time, or we need to stop this conversation because it's not going anywhere. I've had those conversations. I've had those experiences. One time I actually had to shush the man's wife to let him make a decision because every time I would shut up, the wife would start. He was trying to decide between cremation and burial. Interesting conversation, by the way. You want to talk to me if you actually are really hip on cremation. It's not that simple. There's problems with it. Anyway, we would get right down to it, and he couldn't quite decide. And so I kept doing my part. I would say, would you rather have this or this? We had two different packages. Here you go. And I would be quiet. The wife would start talking. I did this a couple of different times. Wasn't working. So eventually I had to turn to the wife and say, you know what? We really need to let this man make this decision because it's entirely his call. So let's both let him make the decision now. And then we, thankfully, both shut up. We were quiet. And he made his decision. We had reached that point, and I had to get everyone to be quiet in the room so that could happen. But that is the point where you actually make the sale. And again, if they're not going to make the sale, if they're not going to buy, then we stop wasting everybody's time because the conversation is over. It's time to either make a sale or don't. Closing under fire, the first no. I love this. I love this little thing. I've seen so many salespeople and so many people like this. The so-and-so just rejected me for prom type of a stance. Okay. First no doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to buy. There's an old saying in retail that grumps or grouches are buyers. They're in there, they're grumbling, and they end up buying things. Okay? Just because they say no does not mean they're not going to buy. All right. Now, difficulties with closing. Closing is the easiest part of the presentation. Would you like this one or this one? Sign here, please. However, salespeople fail because, number one, they're not confident in their abilities to close. You end up then with the rambling, well, I really like this one, this, you really, and you keep talking until you run out of time and the person wanders away. They determine that the prospect does not need the quantity or type of merchandise, or the prospect should not buy. Now, ethically, there are times when someone should not buy. That happens. But more often than not, they're perfectly fine with buying. It's us that have problems. We have the problems. Okay? We decide, you know what, they don't really need it, because it's easier to say that and walk away than to actually have the guts to close and face up to it. They may not have worked hard enough to develop a customer profile and customer benefit plan, meaning they haven't really sold the customer yet. They're still just going, I don't really know what you're talking about. An example, old favorite. Would you prefer the Xerox 6200 or the 6400 copier? Now, take a look at that question. We assume a lot in sales, intentionally. Customer has a desire to buy one of the copiers, so it's not, do you want a copier? It's, would you like one or the other? Okay. We're assuming the customer is going to buy. We're kind of assuming the sale. We're going to move beyond, do you want to buy a copier today? And we're going into, now which one did you want? This one or this one? Let's talk about this. If you can get them past that, you've already trial closed these people. They're already talking about, I'm going to buy a copier today. It allows the customer preference. They can say, I like that one a little bit better. It's a choice between products, not between the product and nothing. So as my friend was doing, saying, would you like this car or that car? It wasn't, would you like to buy a car today? We're already past that in the conversation. We've already moved past that. Presenting a choice, you receive a yes, which we like yeses, or we uncover objections. Again, we love objections. That's fine, because I'd much rather have somebody come out and say, I have this issue with this. I don't like this part, because then I get them a different product. I can figure out what they actually do need. Again, I'm serving this person. On the other hand, if they just keep on going, yeah, I kind of like that, and it turns out they've just been being nice to me the entire time, and so we've spent an hour, and neither of us are where we want to be, that's frustrating. I'd much rather know what they actually need. Usually we learn that by saying, well, how about this one? No, I don't like that one. Okay, then I can find out what you do need. Okay, see the customer likes both the 6200 and 6400, appears to be indecisive, for example. You can ask, is there anything you're unsure of? Again, I need some kind of reaction. You give me something. If I'm asking questions, you give me straight answers, we can move forward. If you're saying, I don't know, there's something going on. I need to figure out what that is. Okay, this question, is there something you're unsure of? Probes to find out why your prospect is not ready to close yet. Okay, now research reinforces these. Okay, common mistakes, they tell instead of sell. Okay, they don't ask enough questions. If you're talking and the other person is just staring at you, you're probably not selling. You're just telling a story, and you might be annoying people. They over control or ask too many closed-ended questions. Now, sometimes closed-ended questions work, but sometimes you've got somebody who knows they're just being led around, and they're going to let you do it for a little while because they're being polite, and then they're going to walk away. Don't respond to the customer's needs with benefits. If you have a customer saying, I really need this, you'd better be able to reply with, and I'm going to give that to you. Let me show you how. If you can't do that, then the product doesn't really fit the customer, and it's probably not going to go well. Either you don't recognize the needs or give those benefits prematurely. Sometimes you can tell them the good news far too quickly, and then they aren't impressed. Don't recognize or handle negative attitudes effectively. Or they make weak closing statements or don't know when to close. There is a moment when the conversation is over, it's time to close this thing or go home. And usually that's when people talk about salespeople as being brave or being ambitious or brash, when they're saying, okay, it's that time now. Either we're going to do this or we're not. Okay, it happens. Now, keys to improve selling. Ask questions, gather information, uncover needs. You need to actually know your customer. That's why return sales are so nice. Have somebody come back who you already sold to before, and you say, oh, here we go. We're going to jump right past all of that information gathering, jump right past the relationship beginning, and just go, okay, what do you need this time? We already have the trust. They're going to tell you, I need this. I love that. Recognize the customer has a real need and how the benefits of the product or service can satisfy it. We have to remember we're doing a service here. Just because we have to do a closing means we're actually getting them to do what is best for them. We have to move them to that point. That's fine. Some people need that. In most cases, people need that. Let's tell the truth. Establish a balanced dialogue with customers. Certainly. Recognize and handle negative customer attitudes promptly and directly. Again, why waste your time? Inexperienced salespeople do that all the time. Somebody acts like they don't want it and they keep talking to them. Address it. Okay? You know what? I'm sensing you don't really like talking about this. Is there a problem? Can I show you something else? You know what? Do you like this one or do you not like this one? No, I don't like this one. Okay, let's go find you a different one. Let's go look over here. What color are we looking for? What size? What model? Just talking at somebody is not always selling. Use benefit summary and action plan. When you do not make the sale, let me stop for just a moment. The company I used to work for, selling funeral products and things, did a survey one time where they went into homes where most of our presentation were done at the person's home, and they surveyed these people and said, okay, you didn't buy anything from our salesperson. Okay, that's fine, but we want to know why you did not buy. Okay, just tell us the reason. We want to know so we can train our people and all this kind of stuff. Do you know what the main thing the people told them was? It wasn't that they didn't like the product. It wasn't that they didn't like the salesperson. It wasn't they didn't like the company. The number one reason why people did not buy, they did not ask me for the sale. They didn't try to sell me anything. They sat here and talked about the product, and then they left. They never closed. They didn't ask for the sale. They didn't ask me to buy anything. Was I supposed to buy something? I would have bought something. A lot of them said they would have bought something if we'd only asked them for the sale. That's the importance of closing. Okay? As much as we like to talk about how I'm just a friendly little person here, if they come into a store and they're talking to a salesperson, they are at least a little bit interested in buying something. Not every single one of them, but as a general rule. Okay, they're not there just because they have nothing better to do in their life. If they're on a used car lot, they're looking for a car. If they're with a real estate agent, they're looking for a house or a piece of property. If they are at a furniture store, they're looking for furniture to buy. Now, if you can get them with the piece of furniture, the piece of property, the whatever it is that is perfect for them, they're going to buy it. But if you cannot lead them there, if you can't get them to where they know it's exactly what they want and close the sale, they'll eventually walk out. So yeah, biggest issue. They didn't ask me to. Now, we don't make the sale. You cannot always sell to everyone. There is no product that appeals to everybody all the time. And sometimes your product does not match the customer. It's that simple. Don't take buyer's denial personally. Don't think, oh, I'm a bad salesperson. No. Your job is not to sell to every single person you ever meet up with. That does not work. Be courteous and cheerful. All right? Take it nicely, because often those same people come back and see you the next time. You may not have made this sale. You might make the next one by how you react when it doesn't work. It's that simple. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Hope you had a good time. Thank you for watching.